Now, for our grand finale, we have a fireside chat about showing care for your employees in a hugely growing business. Our featured speaker is Andy Schneider. She is a senior vice president of people at Alaska Airlines, meaning like the CHRO. This has been consistently rated as one of America's best airlines. Andy began her career as the airline's manager of financial accounting and has held roles including VP of in-flight services. She earned her BA from Gonzaga and an MBA from the University of Washington. Interviewing Andy will be Joey Thompson, a reporter at the Puget Sound Business Journal. He, like Andy, is a graduate of Gonzaga. We planned it this way. This is an all Bulldogs conversation. He was editor-in-chief of the student newspaper. He joined the Puget Sound Business Journal in 2021 and covers airlines, hospitality, and the retail industry. So please join me in welcoming Andy and Joey for this grand finale conversation.
Andy, thank you for taking the time with us today.
It's my pleasure.
We start off by telling everybody a little bit about sort of your career background. I know you've worn a lot of hats at Alaska and how you got to your current role.
Well, I started there when I was 5, and that was after a little stint in public accounting. But I have been at Alaska for a very long time. Little fun fact, I think our total revenue the year I was hired is about what we make in a month these days. Or half a month probably is actually a little bit more accurate. And I started in accounting, like I said, did a few things. And then I had an opportunity to work in in-flight, which is our flight attendant division. I worked in station operations. I spent time at our regional partner, then back to in-flight, and I am now in charge of human resources.
And one of the things we talked about earlier was it's such a key focus for Alaska to empower their employees at the ground level to make informed decisions, when things arise. Can you walk us through what that means for Alaska, why it's important to Alaska, and what does that look like playing out with its employees?
Yeah, we found after a series of a really long stretch where we had to make a lot of difficult decisions to outsource some work and some things like that, that our employees were feeling disenfranchised, and frankly, they didn't feel like that there was a lot of trust placed in them. And we felt it was really important that we come up with a tool and some training to let them know and to tell them that we trust their decision making and that we have their back. And so quite a few years ago, we put together an empowerment framework that is really a tool for decision making for them. And it starts with things like starts with safety first. It's always all about safety. And it allows them to use their discretion in any given situation to make a decision that's in favor of the guest. And when we rolled this out, we told them, and we did it through a series of workshops that were face-to-face. We let them know that if they follow this decision-making framework and they do something for the guest, they, whatever they need to do, they comp a bag or they do whatever, we'll have their back, that they have the full right of decision. And I think it's been super important. Nobody has better knowledge about what's happening in an employee guest situation than the person right there in the front of it. They know how long that person's been there that day. They know what else is happening, if the flight's delayed, how the announcements are going, whatever the situation might be. And we feel like it's been extremely important in terms of really differentiating us and making sure that we can allow the customers to be taken care of right in the moment.
And I'm sure the customer appreciates that flexibility as well.
Well, I hope so.
And, the pandemic had an effect on every industry, but travel had a very unique effect because not only were a lot of your employees working through this public safety emergency, but we saw that sort of revenge travel coming out of the pandemic and the stress it put on your industry. You had a care retreat coming out of COVID to it was like a spa theme with your employees to kind of show them that you were listening and understanding the stress. What was that like?
Well, just to take a little step back, while some of us were probably at home watching Schitt's Creek and Tiger King, our employees had to be out there on the front line dealing with people who weren't very nice. They, somehow when people put a mask on, I think that it sort of shielded them from maybe some humanity. I don't know, but I'm so proud of our frontline employees for actually being out there. They took a lot of abuse. It was a scary time. None of us really knew what was supposed to be happening or what was going on with the disease. And yet they showed up every day and they did what they needed to do to get guests where they needed to go. through a whole lot of change and transformation. This flight schedule was changing constantly and the rest of it. And so as we were coming out of COVID and, the hiring ramped up quickly, as everybody in this room is probably aware from your own organizations, we felt we really needed to do something for our people to let them know that we have their back. And we bring people together frequently. Like every couple of years, we like to bring our frontline in and talk with them about things for, a day or so. We knew it needed to be different. And in the audience today, there's a gentleman right here in the front row, Elliot, I always say your name, Peshet. And he is responsible for what we call the care retreat. And the whole goal behind the care retreat was to really let employees know that it was important for them to take care of themselves and to take care of each other before you could even get around to taking care of guests. And the whole thing, we wanted it very experiential. We rented the old Filson building over here. It's totally decked out in brand theme, and it was experiential. There's a quiet area where you can listen to music and sounds. There's a sensory bar. The food was amazing, and it really was meant to be an investment in our people. And I believe employees felt that way. 80% of the people that participated in that said that they felt like Alaska Airlines cared about them. And it was just the right tone and feel coming out of the pandemic. And at that, we took that framework that I mentioned before, and we sort of updated it. It's really now in alignment with our values. And we brought care into that. And we talked about how important it is to care for themselves and each other, even before you get to caring for guests. And it's been super important.
And that had to be a good primer for that revenge travel that came and the stress it put on the airline industry. Because even when the folks took the masks off, I think some of us may have forgotten how to behave in society. Can you walk us through what that stress was like even after the pandemic?
Yeah, well, so we just finished the care retreats in April of this year. So it's been going. It took us about 9 months. Is that right? About 10 months to get everybody through that. So it was sort of following a lot of the really bad behavior that was happening. And flight attendants will tell you, people dropped the masks, people got a lot nicer right away. But some bad behavior has persisted, and it's just been it allows the flight attendants to, again, and our agents, an opportunity to really think about the situation, make sure that everyone around is safe. If someone's misbehaving in a way that's unsafe for themselves or anybody else, it gives them tools to help them address those things. And I just think it's been really helpful.
And one of the other big things we talked about was just the need to continue to scale up with such high demand, continued demand for travel. How is Alaska going about trying to bring in, not only take care of the folks who made it through COVID, but bring in a whole new wave of folks?
Yeah. And I know many of the people, since you're all HR professionals, probably had the same experience following COVID. Everybody wanted to ramp back up and get back to normal. And everybody wanted to go someplace because we'd been cooped up for so long. And so we did a tremendous amount of hiring that year following COVID. And that meant a lot of training as well. We found that because there were a number of people who took early outs during the pandemic, the need and the number of new people at any given shift was much greater than it had been in the past. And our old training wasn't as sufficient as it needed to be. So it really required a lot of revamping around training so that when agents showed up at the ticket counter, as an example, they knew what to do. We'd relied a lot on the people with experience to help sort of hold up the training and to help guide the on-the-job experience. So we've done a lot around that. We've had to take a lot at our employee value proposition. Frankly, we'd never really spent much time talking about that, but that was a really important part of what we've done. And one of the things we're proud of at Alaska is that it's a key differentiator for us is the gift of travel. So we've done a lot to invest in our travel programs. Any employee and their eligible dependents and whoever they choose to be their companion can travel, really pretty much see the world for next to nothing and on a space available basis. And so it's a really big benefit, and we don't talk about it enough. So we're trying to do some things around that. Another one of my colleagues here, Jen Keller, her team was responsible for doing the hiring, which was several multiples more than we've ever done before. And I just couldn't have been more proud of the way that team came together. They implemented a system during the pandemic. Thank goodness they did, so that we could meet the numbers and get in as many people as we needed to do the work. We didn't want to be the limiting factor for our airline not being able to grow, and I don't think we were.
And projecting ahead, how do you feel about where your workforce is at numbers-wise with the future demand?
I think we're in a fairly decent place. The area that is a big concern for airlines is pilots. It's a very well publicized pilot shortage. We implemented, so we had, even before the pandemic, we had some really robust programs to what we call a pilot development program to go out to people who are in the schools and offer some scholarship to help. One of the things people might not know is if you want to be a commercial pilot, you cannot get loans, student loans for that kind of work. And that's one of the problems. It's very expensive to become a pilot. And when you can't get loans, you're trying to finance it and get your training all at the same time. It's hard. We stood up in what we call the Ascend Academy, and it's a full school that people interview with us, and they get scholarships to go through that program. It'll take you all the way from start to finish. And we've got programs for anybody at Alaska or Horizon that wants to become a pilot. We find ways to try to help them get there. And pilots is just one example. We've done so much with so many other areas. Honestly, IT, analytics, flight attendant, technician, if you want to get there, there's ways to make it happen. And then we just have a traditional education assistance program, which for many years we didn't really have a formal program.
And when you're addressing that in hiring, one of the things we talked about was the career pathways within
Yes.
Alaska. And even talking about your own career, how do you sell that to prospective employees?
Well, it's part of our employee value proposition is that we want people to be able to come to Alaska and build their career. And so we take an active interest in that. We do some mentorship programs. We have a leader academy where anyone who wants to take the leadership track can come in. They can take mandatory classes based on where their position is, or they can take classes that they just want to because they're interested. And we really work to try to connect people with other people who can help them and talk about their own career paths. And one of the things we find, our business is complicated, and the best way to get the right people is to get people who have sort of grown up. You bring so much knowledge with you to the next level, and we really believe in promoting from within.
And you even gave an example of a flight attendant at Alaska who then became a pilot, correct?
Absolutely. You have people that work on the ramp that have become pilots. I'll tell you what, those people, when they become pilots, they don't forget their past, and they know what it takes to get there. And they are the most empathetic of all of our, we think of our pilots as leaders out there. They're really powerful leaders. It's pretty cool.
In going back to benefits, you talked about kind of highlighting the travel benefit of working in Alaska. Have you seen sort of other trends in what prospective employees are looking for from a benefits perspective in the last few years?
Yeah, I'm sure many in the audience probably have had the same experience. Finding your career pathing is important. They want to be invested in, and developed employees do. The other area that we've invested in and just have rolled out this calendar year, so it hasn't been very long, is better mental health services. I mean, the stresses today are different than the stresses were before, and whether it be your own personal ones, or people that live with you, or however you call your family, finding good access to services is important. So we've rolled out. We're working with Lyra. The beauty of that for our work group is that we have employees who want to see somebody face to face, and we have employees that are flying across the nation most of their work days, and there are solutions for everybody with that, and it's been so far very, very well received. Early days, but we're really excited about it.
And one of the things Alaska in the news was a potential merger with Hawaiian Airlines. When you are working with your current employees' perspective, and you have this other tranche of workers you're hoping to bring into the fold, what are some of the challenges and opportunities with something like that?
Well, we're really excited about this opportunity. I've personally been spending quite a bit of time over in Hawaii, and the employees of Hawaiian Airlines are some of the most gracious, kind people that you'd ever want to meet. And we're lucky that there's a lot of sort of similarities between their values and Alaska's values. Obviously, we're really doing a lot to sort of listen and learn, and we want to make sure that we're respectful as we go. But the blending the cultures is super important, and we've got a real opportunity to get that right. We don't know what that's going to look like, but I have no doubt that we've got the right people involved in making sure that that's going to happen and happen well. We're in the middle right now of really sort of understanding what the future state of a combined organization needs to look like, and going through the process of determining how we build that, and what the steps are between now and when we get to that place. And it's exciting. You know, I don't know if many of you people know, but you know, Alaska has gotten pretty large. We've got 22,000 people, and we fly to 6 countries. Hawaiian, on the other hand, they're smaller, but they're roughly 9,000 employees, or maybe that might be a little of an overstatement. But they are very international. A lot of their travel goes. They go to Japan. They go all over. They go to Australia. They go to New Zealand. They go to a lot. You know, Guam, Fiji, a lot of places that we don't go to. So it's really an exciting opportunity for us to really expand the Alaska network to the benefit of our guests that want to go a lot of other places.
And we've seen that network expand quite a bit. You know, are there any learnings from previous deals or things like that you're bringing into this kind of implementation?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I was on a flight coming back from Hawaii the other day, and we had a very senior flight attendant crew, and I was back talking to the crew. The 2 gals had been there 44 years, and the other one had been with Alaska 47 years. And they said, I remember when we flew to Washington, D.C., we really felt like we'd arrived. And now look at us, like this is so exciting. They are saying, we're never retiring. We love to fly to Honolulu. It's so great. We really pretty much just do one turn to Hawaii once a week, and it's the best thing we've got. And they said, you know, we're going to do this so much better than the last time. And I will tell you, that is true. We learned so much through our acquisition with Virgin America, and a lot of what we learned are the things that we don't want to repeat, and we are working really hard to do that. Just even making sure we focus on culture is right, and having a little bit of a playbook about what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do has been helpful already. I'm already reaping the benefits.
And you talk about talking with flight attendants who've been with the company for decades. You know, what are some of those things that make a lifelong Alaska employee kind of like yourself? What do you think contributes to that longevity?
Well, you know what? I think that we work to hire well. We work to hire people who are sort of people for others, and people that have sort of a spirit of adventure. And I do think things like the empowerment framework we talked about, the CARE framework, letting people know that we trust them to make good decisions. I think that a lot of our employees really believe that. And I think they've been really proud to be part of our unique history and our heritage. So there's a tremendous amount of pride in Alaska, and we feel like we're sort of the underdog, always fighting to keep up. 85% of the U.S. travel is done by four carriers. The rest of us, you know, JetBlue, Spirit, Frontier, Alaska, Hawaiian, we get the rest of the 15%, and you know, we keep duking it out there, and we're really proud of how we've been able to hold and maintain our own as the underdogs.
And as an employer, you know, Alaska has been in the news a bit lately following the door incident. Yes. What is that? You know, there's so much external noise going on. How do you as an employer talk with your own employees who must have a ton of questions, are fielding questions from the outside? Right. You know, how do you block that out and create sort of an internal line of communication to make sure everybody right. on the inside is on the same page?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. First of all, if anybody in the audience was in fact impacted and had flights canceled as a result of that, I'm really truly sorry. You know, own safety is one of our core values, and I think the fact that we grounded that fleet immediately before anyone told us we needed to really sort of sent an important message to our guests and to our employees to say that we're not messing around here. There's nothing more critical than the safety of our people and the safety of our guests. You don't have an airline for very long if you can't get that right. And we didn't know didn't know what or why the incident happened. I'm really appreciative of the fact that Boeing has stepped up and owned their error, and we will do everything in our part to hold them accountable. But more importantly, we want to make sure that we're sending the right message to our own people too, because we're not going to ask our employees to get back on a plane when we think that there are continued issues. We've got more oversight at Boeing, and our employees know it. Our COO was on the very first flight that happened after that, so that, you know, we're all in this together. And if we don't believe it's safe, it's not going anywhere.
And do you feel like you were able to get your workforce to be, you know, aligned on what the facts of the situation were, and, you know, field those questions and make sure everyone was comfortable? I
do think so. I was really proud. Our corporate communications team did such an excellent job, and they've really been focusing a lot on transparency. We made a very big priority to communicate effectively with people right away. Our COO was on video right away talking to people, and I think a lot of people saw him on the news as well. Those situations are hard, but, you know, the worst thing you can do is allow for a vacuum to be created where everybody fills it with their own idea of what the facts are or how it happened. I think we really worked hard to get ahead of it, get on top of it.
And kind of to back on a positive note, we talked about all your experiences with Alaska. Have there ever been moments as a customer of flying on Alaska flights where you've experienced employees going above and beyond, or something that made you feel like, wow, I'm so proud to be an Alaska employee because of the way that guests are being treated, or anything like that?
Well, I mentioned I ran the flight attendant division for quite a while, and I would read the most amazing stories all the time about things that happened. But after you and I were talking earlier, I was thinking about a story where there was a young couple that was flying on a flight, and one of the flight attendants just got talking with them, and they said, "Oh, my dad was in a horrible burn accident in Alaska," and they'd airlifted him down, and they were going to meet the dad and the mom, and they said, "Yeah, we're supposed to be getting married, and but we're gonna have to call off the wedding because we're just super worried. I don't know what's going on with our dad." And those flight attendants not only really befriended this family that had their father in the hospital. When the man came out, they organized this couple's wedding. They called on all their friends and the people that they knew around them to kind of put this amazing ceremony together and make it happen for them. And there are good people everywhere. I truly believe that, but I just do believe Alaska Airlines has some of the very best.
And I will make you tell the story because I loved it. There was another situation with an older guest on a flight that was treated with some real grace.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very simple example, but it touched my heart. I was flying, and I'd been back, and I always go back and talk to the crew, and I was sitting there reading my book, and there was an older woman, older than me, an older woman sitting a few rows up, and she looked uncomfortable, and the flight attendant stopped and kneeled down next to her and said, "Well, can I help you?" And she was very resistant at first, but then actually called the flight attendant back, and she needed help getting herself to the lavatory. And they were just so gracious and kind to get her down there and make sure she was stable on her way and respectful in her meeting her needs. And it's just, that's the stuff that just warms my heart. It makes me super proud to be part of this organization.
Well, I think that covers all the questions I had for you. Is there anything that you want the folks in this room to walk away with on how Alaska is handling its business right now, or how that care framework is coming together? I'm sure it's come across. I'm very proud to be part of this, but we're super excited about what this acquisition is going to bring for us. We will be working very closely with Boeing. We've been proud of our relationship with Boeing, and they've got some house cleaning to do, but don't ever not bet on Alaska. We've been here more than 90 years, and I just would ask you to continue. If you get a chance to book on us and fly us, please do. And I thank you. We thank you for your business. And I will, before I let you go, do you have a favorite destination?
Oh my gosh. I was trying to think about that. I love Puerto Vallarta. I love Hawaii. But I probably love Boise the best just because that's where my family is, and I like to get there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and talking with us today.
Thank you, Joey. Go Zags, right?
Yeah, go Zags.